What I was going to do was record something. Let's cue up my source. I'm trying to be more sensitive, and you won't actually get to hear this lovely song here. I need to be in music mode, and then go to record, and then start the song. Okay, this is the part I wanted. And we'll get a little bit of this because it's very loud, so that's really quiet. And I want individual notes. It's a solo performance. And then this is full orchestra, smash, smash, smash. Okay, so we turned off that and we stopped this. So our groove recording got a total of 4,096 notes, which is the maximum, which means it's got too many, which means this is a failure in the biggest picture. And you can see the song starts off just using these octaves, this stuff in the middle. So this is around, here's C4, here's middle C, here's middle A. So this is right around human vocal range, primary territory. All of a sudden, there's all this higher stuff up here. Now, maybe none of that is valid. Maybe all of this is just little chirps of harmonics. What we can do is we can mute if invisible, and then drag the screen up until they are off screen. And then when we play it, we'll only hear these notes. But anyway, listen to the bottom half of the music, listen to the top half of the music, gain insight. In this case, however, we're going back to the vocoding. It looks like we were getting pretty good parallel lines. So that tends to imply stable note detection, and we should hear that musically pretty well. Well, I think that's about right, so let's just go for it. So the song starts quiet and pulsy, and here the singer glides their voice. Is that a lilt? But it's a little FM, little frequency modulation. But I know I want this section right here. I recognize it. Okay, so I need to bring this into about 3,000, I guess. Let it repaint. So now I want, this is the lead in, and then that's the section that's my test section. The part I want. And there's immediately followed by a very loud part. Okay, so that was the spectral recording, and it has sort of a bellish aspect. There's some clicking, but there's also some peeping. So we have the chord progression, and this is the full recording. There's a little cursor of where we are in it. If I tap somewhere in the recording, it moves the cursor to that point. We see the spectrum that was recorded at that point. So this one we see it was a blue A, and then here was another blue A, but it's one octave up. So my octave suppressor, if you look at the brown bar there, that shows you how much energy was present after suppression. So I subtracted energy from it, looks like about half of it, and I think this is logarithmic, so make of that what you will. And then the third harmonic, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, this yellow E is the third harmonic. And as you can see, I also, it's got just a little bit of gray at the bottom. And that shows you how much energy it had left after I suppressed it. So the 7th octave of C is just, well, it sounds like this. And these are musically valid, but mostly appear because of harmonics from the real notes you were playing, which are down here. So human voice tends to be limited to right around here. And then bass is way down there. But eventually, you get up high enough that you get dangerously close to my Nyquist frequency, and I start to explode, and so I don't let you go there. And I'm calling this speak and spell mode at the moment. Okay, so that's my so-called formant playback, and in that the spectral playback, I take the spectrum, the discrete frequencies, the discrete musical frequencies that I thought I heard, and I add together a bunch of sine waves of those frequencies with weighting values, and the sum of that is what I send to the speaker to be heard. And it's that bellish, ringish, ringing kind of sound. For the formant playback, it's sine wave-ish things that came out of a filter that was designed to resonate at one particular sine wave, or a particular smear of sine waves. But the source signal had that and much more in it. So only the part that made through this filter or this filter or this filter comes out and becomes pseudo sine waves, which then get added together to form what you actually hear, which sounds like this. So this is the spectral this is the spectral recording. And no trouble hearing the musical part. You can't really make out the words. If you're not familiar with that phrase, you probably still wouldn't know what it was. In formant, I think it's a little easier to hear the words. So I'm thinking the formant output is what would be the in-game voice technology, where the vocoder is allowing you to design your personal alien voice, and what other people hear is, well, if you can sing well, they would hear this, but this is the quality of speech they would hear. And again, I'll do my best to make it so that it is really hard to understand words. But I want it to be able to convey emotion, and I think I feel emotion from that. Okay, so anyway, so then I have a third render mode called samples. So here you can see the underlying samples, the actual recording for this.
Don't you ever say I just walked away, I will always want you.
So and once you've heard the original, now you can make it out. And see, I need you to both sound alien, and I also want you to sound like you're kind of on some sort of intergalactic radio. And I'm real pleased with how that's sounding. Also, it's pretty economical. What else did I want to say about this? Okay, anyway, proof of concept is possible to carry emotion without words. And I claim this is an example. Carry the emotion, not the words. Game in development, synSpace Drone Runners for Android, available on Google Play Store and for the Kindle Fire HD. This is played on a 10-inch Kindle, so this is a large tablet, largish tablet. And we're in the middle of a vocoder experiment, and here's a formant playback of a sampling from a musical performance. And I'm using that as, oops, I'm going to call that proof of concept that it is possible to have something that is capable of conveying emotion, but not quite making out the individual words. In this case, just so you have the words on record, this is a copyright violation. Hopefully it's short enough to not matter.
Don't you ever say I just walked away. I will always want you.
Okay, anyway, I just wanted to document that because I have it in the machine right now and it's going to be erased. But what I wanted to talk about in this film, bonk, was there. Let's turn this off. Look, we're in a space game. We can shoot at things. We can pick up power-ups. We can do stuff. It's a lot of fun. But we can also play music to ourselves. And as a star map author, we can add music to our maps. But now you can play maniacal tunes while you're waiting for your next victim. Or something. You got shortcuts to your favorite instruments. You got a big long list of instruments. At least I do. You start with nothing. I'll bet you wish you had an FM pluck. New feature. So normally you got this giant 2.5 octave keyboard that is a portion of this larger keyboard. Great. But now this new key, when you tap it, boom, you lose a whole octave of your 2.5 octave keyboard. So this part's the same. Doesn't even change octave. And it's still affected by this. Okay, so we have it set to, the arpeggiation is set to ST, which stands for strummed. The duration is 0, which means that notes last as long as I hold the key. So I just push these keys with Roman numerals 1 through 7 on them, and it will play a chord. Because I'm in strummed mode, it strums the entrance of the chord. So I push the 4 chord, which it tells me in the key of C is the F major chord, and it strums an F major key. And then I tell it I want a 5 chord, which it turns out is a G. You know, it hurts me too. And then back to the 1. And I have about 15 of these patterns. So there's the simplest one is the chord pattern. And then after that, you start going duration. So instead of 0, which is as long as I hold it down, now it's going to go pulse. It's going to go bonk, bonk, bonk while I hold it down. And the duration 1 is 1 arpeggio pulse per beat. So if we look at our synthesizer, we're at 80 beats per minute. Let's change that to 60 beats per minute. So it should be a nice slow 1 per second kind of thing. and it should end the note before that, I think. Ideally, you might want to have a knob for that, but basically I'm stopping and starting a note as fast as I possibly can for test purposes. Anyway, so that's duration 1. So duration 2 is 2 arpeggiation notes per beat. So in this case, we're in 4/4 time, so a beat is a quarter note, so there's 2 of them, so these are like 1/8 notes. Okay, turn that down a little bit. Okay, 3, this is actually just triplets, 3 arpeggiation notes per beat, but they're not good triplets at this point. If I go to 4/4, then it does 4 arpeggiation notes per beat, so 16th notes with my current settings. And you can hear I can just barely keep up with that. And now we go to a real arpeggiation, not strummed, but up. Oh yeah, it does 4 notes now. So it's just strumming a C major chord. Not strumming, it's arpeggiating a C major chord up and down. So let's do that 2. And let's turn the volume down a little bit, since that's kind of intense. And let's change our beat per minute to 130. And let's take it back down to 60. Well, let's take it down to 20 or 40. Okay, back to 60. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so now just to review: up, down. Let's speed it up a little bit. Okay, yeah, if you get better at timing when you push the notes. Now, I can make that easier. I can make it so that it kind of understands a 4-bar measure and it'll only do transitions, you know, there. And I could add some latching stuff so that when you let go of a key, it kept doing it. I could make it a toggle on, toggle off kind of thing. UD up, down. And then there's down, up. That's interesting. Is that true for other notes? Oh. Oh yeah, it is. So while you're holding down a key, it's making these notes turn on, turn off, turn on, turn off. And if you change the bass, if you change the root in the middle of a note playing, it won't turn that note off unless that note also exists in the new chord. Yeah, okay, that's a bug. So that's down, up, and next is down and up. It just kind of pauses at the ends. Yeah, so the same thing that allows you to play smoothly from one to the other is going to tend to cause these stuck notes. So, gotta fix it. Okay, this one sounds useful. This is like leyenda. And back to chord. And now, so this is chording 4 per second. If I go over to the, oh, I'm already over to the, okay. If I just push record from where I was, I'm now recording a track. Okay, now I play it back. It's funny because the errors in the actually make it sound better. Okay, and it started at a pretty good time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is me trying to do 8 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Huh. So apparently if the notes are right, okay, so this note is 42 to 44. This note is 44 to 46. But if I move this so that it's on the same line as the other guy, he disappears. If I move one to the left, well, a bit to the left, and then come down, he does not disappear. If I move him to the right, 1, does not disappear, he disappears. If I change his width, move him to the right, well, that's odd. Well, that's okay. Okay, so I think what's happening there is anytime I move a note, I now call a routine that sorts the events again, because I need them, they're stored in this big stream, and I need them to be stored in chronological order. And if I have this note here and then I move it there, now it has to come before all these other notes. And the start events have to come before their end events, and so there's some stuff to be messed around with there. So I think what's happening there is that the sorting of the note is changing the order in a way that I render it. I don't render it. Anyway, so there's something to be fixed there. And I think that's enough for now. Thank you very much. New recording keyboard. When you're done playing with it, you can make it go away. But my goal is to step into song composition through you would basically design your verse and your chorus and your other things as chord progressions, and there'd be some simple way of making a song out of chord progressions, which you could then play. But I would like to be able to edit it at the chord progression level first before it gets turned into the whole bunch of notes, at which point it becomes much harder to edit it. But ultimately it has to become the whole bunch of notes. If you leave it as just chord changes, it will always sound like Mr. Robot. Eventually I have to get in there and start moving some things around. Anyway, the end.